Welcome to the weather briefing for the week of September 7th from the National Weather Service in Missoula. This is the water vapor imagery, and it shows this fairly dry, flat, upper-level ridge over the western U.S., and that's really been the feature that's provided us some beautiful, sunny, warming, and drying weather over the past few days. But we will see a change coming this week, and that's going to be brought by this feature that you see here in the top of the satellite imagery, this moisture and upper level trough that's going to be moving into the area. So let's take a look at how we expect that thing to progress. This is the 500 millibar upper level chart showing the general storm track of the area, and here it shows, this is for Sunday afternoon, and it shows this pretty flat flow upper level ridge that we saw in the satellite imagery. And this image overlaid over the lines is the precipitation expected by the model, and this is showing where that moisture was indicated on the satellite imagery. If we step through 24 hours, the moisture is pushing toward the Canadian border here, or toward the U.S.-Canadian border. I don't expect it to be much of an issue through Monday. The big change I expect Monday, or the interesting change I should say, is you notice these lines tightening up overhead, indicating a stronger mid and upper level flow developing over the northern Rockies. So my concern for Monday is another fairly warm day with strengthening winds. And this image shows the wind barbs and overlaid with the speeds on top. And it shows increasing speeds through the Panhandle and northwest Montana in particular, but I think all areas of the fire weather districts are going to see some increase of winds from what we've seen over the weekend. I think the winds will be predominantly the upper slopes and ridge tops. We're going to start out pretty stable in the morning, so it's kind of hard to mix that flow down into the valleys, but some of the larger valleys will see that increased winds in the late afternoon or mid to late afternoon hours mixed down. But another warm, dry day, but some increasing wind on Monday. So could give problems if you're in a suppression mode or if you're in a prescription mode. If you can't tolerate much wind, it'd be something to be concerned about. But once we get into Tuesday, then we really start seeing an atmospheric change as this trough drops into the area. We'll start seeing quite a bit of cloud cover. Precipitation, I think, is going to be hit and miss. It's going to be focused along the divide and diminished amounts the farther away you get away from the continental divide. Also, I think we'll start to lose much of our westerly flow, but what this system will do is push cold air down along the divide, and we expect that to start spilling into northwest Montana and even west central Montana by this time frame Wednesday, much like an Arctic would here during the wintertime. So very shallow, low-level easterly flow where the ridgetops may not be seeing a whole lot of flow or maybe even continued kind of a west or northwesterly flow. So this does indicate some precipitation possible. Again, I think it's going to be mostly east of the divide, but throughout the mountains and portions of western Montana in particular, and maybe even a little bit in north central Idaho, we do have a shot at some precipitation on Wednesday. There's just not a lot of moisture with it though, but much cooler air mass and that low-level easterly flow is a pretty safe bet. In fact, snow levels will probably come down to around 4,000 feet, and so areas along Glacier National Park and parts of the Bob Marshall Wilderness could be problematic for people venturing out and doing field work. Once we get into Thursday, that system starts to move well east of the area, and we're going to start to recover. I think Thursday is going to end up, fairly dry, but by the end of the day, still some lingering showers around in the morning. But it'll still be pretty cool and maybe a little breezy at times. And then we'll continue to recover once we get to Friday with no real indication of any moisture. Nice big upper level ridge building off the west coast, and this cold air mass heading into the Midwest. So we'll start to recover with our temperatures and stay fairly dry on Friday. And that really takes us then into the extended period. And this is the 6 to 10 day outlook for September 13th through 17th. You can see the days down there. And this is temperature probability. And this really is showing that cold air or potential for below normal temperatures moving into the Midwest, continuing into next week. And us under the influence of the ridge, probably warmer than normal, at least to the west of us warmer than normal. It really depends on where that ridge axis sets up. We could stay in probably a northerly flow and maybe a few periodic systems coming down in that northerly flow. So it's going to be hard to tell whether we're going to bounce into a really warm regime or stay on the cool side. We're kind of in that neutral area right here in the middle. But stay tuned on that, and we'll take another look at it again for a briefing on Thursday. Thanks.